On October 14, the Israeli army announced that it was preparing steps to conduct a large-scale military campaign into the Gaza Strip, including coordinated attacks from the air, land, and land. Israel also issued a second warning to Palestinians to evacuate to the southern Gaza area. The Israeli army said that the country's air defense system intercepted dozens of missiles from the Gaza Strip. On the same day, Hamas movement leader Ismail Haniyeh affirmed that Palestinians will not leave Gaza or the West Bank. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, by October 15, the number of Palestinian casualties had reached 2,383 dead and 10,814 injured, mainly in Gaza. Israeli media said that the country had recorded more than 1,300 deaths, killed, and nearly 3,400 people were injured. The Israeli army said at least 279 soldiers were killed and 126 people were taken hostage in Gaza. The World Health Organization, WHO, warns that forcing thousands of hospital patients to evacuate to already overloaded medical facilities will lead to serious consequences. WHO opposes Israel's repeated request for 22 hospitals treating 2,000 patients in northern Gaza to evacuate. Forced evacuation of patients and medical staff will worsen the humanitarian and medical crisis. Many countries and international organizations continue to promote humanitarian activities and call for the establishment of safe zones in Gaza. The aid convoy of Egyptian charities has moved to the Rafah border gate area. A plane carrying WHO medical supplies sent to Gaza has arrived at Egypt's El Arish airport. The European Commission also announced a tripling of humanitarian aid to Gaza, to €75 million, and said it would coordinate with the United Nations to ensure Palestinian access. Mexico, France, and Ukraine urged Israel open a humanitarian corridor into Gaza. The Mexican foreign minister emphasized that this is an urgent call because even war requires certain principles. The Human Rights Commissioner of the Ukrainian parliament confirmed that the country has sent a letter of protest to Israel. French President Emmanuel Macron urged Israel and Egypt to open a humanitarian corridor to evacuate citizens through the Rafah border gate. Some sources said that Israel has informed the US to temporarily suspend the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza, a move that caused Egypt to protest. Egypt said the Rafah border crossing was still operating, but important infrastructure on the Gaza side was destroyed, disrupting regular operations at this border gate. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden held separate phone calls with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. In his first phone call with President Abbas since the conflict broke out, Mr. Biden affirmed that the US fully supports urgent humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people, especially in Gaza. With Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Biden highlighted his policy of support for Israel, but warned about efforts to expand the conflict. US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin announced on October 14 that the Pentagon will deploy a second aircraft carrier strike group to the eastern Mediterranean region to enhance security for Israel. The USS Eisenhower aircraft carrier and warships will join forces with the previously deployed USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier group. In a phone call with the Prime Minister of Israel, German Prime Minister Olaf Scholz affirmed Germany's stance of complete solidarity towards Israel. The two leaders agreed on the importance of efforts to avoid the spread of conflict in the region, especially the intervention of Hezbollah fighters. Sharing the same opinion, France called on Hezbollah forces to stay out of the Hamas-Israel conflict. In a phone call with his Saudi counterpart, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called on Israel to stop collective punishment against the people of Gaza, and said that Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip had beyond the scope of self-defense. In a phone call with the US Secretary of State, Mr. Wang Yi said it was necessary to convene an international peace conference as soon as possible. European Council President Charles Michel announced that he will convene an online summit of EU leaders on October 17 to discuss the Israel-Hamas conflict. According to the head of the European Council, the most important thing is that the EU must agree on a common position and act consistently and clearly on the current situation.